to be attentive and be able to have very, very important developments when it comes to research. And just as a background, we understand that laboratory, we generate a lot of data. And if you're coming from a facility, mostly you realize that many people will call out for the data, but the laboratory staff will not utilize the data in any development of research. And so we are stuck in the bench, and we forget that we have to communicate these findings that we get on the bench so that we are also visible to the world, to the global community, and any other person who consumes the data that we provide from the lab. And let it be well understood that everything that we have currently in practice is actually research outcome. So research is very key. And you cannot just do research and stop there. You need to do research and disseminate the findings. And the proper dissemination of the findings is to ensure that your research is visible to the very best world journal. Acceptability with the world journal, if you publish with it, then it means your research is visible, because many people will approach that end and get the research to read, interact with your work, and be able to even reach you out. So this is a very great opportunity for us to impact. And having said those remarks, my name is Seth Shikuku. I'm a BMLS. That is my background. I'm MSc in cytology and histology, and I'm a passionate research scientist. Currently, I'm stationed at Wamalwa Kijana as a quality assurance officer for the hospital and for the lab. Welcome. So our objectives in this particular module will be to advance knowledge and skills on practical manuscript development or writing. We understand that when it comes to manuscript writing, you ask somebody in laboratory, and most of us, you'll see everybody saying like research is hard. Ask the students, oh, research is difficult. No, it's just that we've not heard an opportunity to be mentored correctly on how to stepwise. And so this one, we are looking at this objective that at the end of it, we achieve, we are knowledgeable and we have proper skills to start practicing manuscript development or writing. Understand key requirements for successful scientific dissemination of lab research findings. How can we successfully disseminate? Dissemination is all about issuing out, is communicating the lab findings that we get, and we have curtailed them into a research finding that is on repeatable journals. Empower laboratory personnel to actively engage in operational research publication. You can agree with me that most of our laboratory staff, they do not engage in research, and so you'll find out that research, yes, but then we are not publishing this. We can present abstracts, yes, but we're not publishing the work. So at the end of this module, we expect that we'll empower the laboratory personnel and any other health worker, because research is diverse, on this platform to be able to publish their work. Review different types of manuscripts and journals. We'll also look at different types of manuscripts and journals. I know when it comes to manuscript training is a long training, but I'll be very strategic to ensure that we get most of the important perspectives in research. And just to begin, basically, research is a systematic scientific inquiry. It's a question that you make, and this question is meant to generate facts, new knowledge, and also communicate the findings. If you do research and you do not communicate the findings, then you've not done research. So the apex of research is communicating the findings. Then basically, when you talk about research journal, is actually a dissemination platform where you can share your findings. And this one is done periodically, is a periodically, and contains articles written by experts in a particular field of study who report their results during that, in that particular field when they do research. What about a manuscript? And this is what we are handling today. It's actually a pre-publication draft of a formal written or scholarly document. So this is an academic pre-publication document that you write. So when you have a pre-publication draft of any academic document, that becomes your manuscript if you intend to put it on a research journal. Of course, it should be intended for submission to a peer-reviewed journal. And when I talk about peer-reviewed journal, is those people who are well versed with that topic or that research area, experts in that area, will review. So we call it a peer review. People who can communicate. For example, if you've done hematology, you put it on a journal, a research journal that is for him has peer reviewers who are hematologists. who come up and review your paper and give inputs and critique your paper before it is published. So that's a manuscript. So it should be an original, actually unpublished draft. You cannot get somebody's published and you put it. That is plagiarism. That is unethical. It's actually, it amounts to very serious legal implications. So it must be an original unpublished draft that you want to communicate. Then a research article now. Now, a research article is now a final published version. You started with a manuscript, but once it is published on a journal, it's called a research article or a research paper. It's a final published version of that work in a particular journal. So it presents new findings after peer review. It comes after peer review, and we'll see why, and editing. So basic types of journals, we have 4 basic types, and one is academic and scholarly journals, which we'll be handling. Trade journals, popular scientific magazines, newspapers, those are also journals. But now here we're going to speak about the academic and scholarly journals, which we will be engaging in. And now, what are the types of scholarly journals or the academic ones that we've just talked about? There are types, just as there are basic types. Now, there are types under the academic journals. And one of the journals is journals publishing original research articles. Actually, this is the foundation of medicine research. So these are, they just publish peer-reviewed articles based on original research. So it's called a journal publishing original research articles. Example, Nature. If you Google Nature, that's one of the journals that publishes original research articles. We have journals publishing review articles. And when you talk about review articles, these journals will just get, when you have a review, you've reviewed an article. When you talk about hierarchy of evidence, we know that meta-analysis and systematic reviews are on top. So you can collate different research and you come up with a review and you publish on it. It's called a review article. You've reviewed research A on sickle cell, research B on sickle cell, research D on sickle cell, and come up with an article about it. So it's actually a comprehensive summary of the research published on a particular topic or area. Then we have what we call specialty journals. So these specialty journals, they narrow down to a specific area, specific special area. For example, you've done MLS, but you've gone into cytology. So we have journals that specifically publish cytology work, and that becomes a specialty journal. Yeah. For example, you talk of Nature Reviews Chemistry, so you'll be publishing everything about chemistry in that particular concept. So we have another journal called Journals Publishing Case Studies, and this one is mostly in medicine. You come up with a case and you publish. So it just picks on case studies alone. You come up with a case of TB, you publish on it. So like BMJ case reports, it's a journal, BMJ case reports. And now this one just publishes case studies alone. Multidisciplinary stroke interdisciplinary journals. These are journals that have a wider discipline, but with specific boundaries. It can say it's a journal that, for example, SLM, it will be a journal within the medicine and is concentrating on laboratory medicine as per se. So that becomes a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary journal. We have journal publishing conference proceedings, and this journal sticks to only papers presented in a conference and it publishes them. For example, you present a poster or an abstract, they publish on what we call the publishing conference proceedings. We have open access journal, and within the open access journal, in this case, it provides immediate online access to articles without charging any fee. You see, when you just Google and you get a research article published freely, you don't have to subscribe. This is called an open access journal because you can access the research articles published on it without paying any money. So what happens? They opt for article processing charges from the people who publish. So those authors or their organizations pay for them what you call article processing charges, APCs. And basically, this is the most, the majority of journals are in this case, where the author will publish with some charges, and then the readers will access. Yeah. Then we have paywall or subscription-based journals, which you must subscribe or pay some fee per article for you to access published research. And we can have, like, for example, Acta Cytologica, whereby you have to pay, and you can see now that article in full. Now we have hybrid journals, and now that means it will have an open access, and it will also have what we call a subscription based. So it's both. It's a model that combines the open access together with the, so we call it a hybrid journal, because you can pay or subscribe and you can have open access. So there are papers that you can access them openly without paying any fee. But these also their subscription, particularly for certain rather particular articles. So we have also transformative journals. like hybrid, but these proactively support what you call transitioning to open access. So you are able to do what you call you pay, yes, but it advocates proactively. So it transforms that paper from what you call you must access through the subscription based to an open access. Now I want to bring it very, very clearly, and I want to confirm with Nelly. Are we still together? My voice is clear.
Yes, yes, Seth. Your
Okay,
voice
fine.
is
Thank you.
clear.
Yeah, let's
Yes.
proceed. This is a key one that I want us to talk about is predatory journals. These are actually journals that violate well-established codes of conduct in publishing industry. These are journals that they are predatories. They are predators. They just want to get money from people. They want to make business and make profits, but they are not interested in scientific. And we need to be notified about this. For example, you can publish your work on a very good journal, and you'll get some emails like, "Publish with us next work." Try to. We want your journal is so good. We want you to publish that with us. You've already published the work, and you cannot publish a single work twice in two different journals. That's unethical. So you've already put your work on a scientific journal, but there's some people following you up with emails and trying to convince you the way that becomes business. And this is the criteria to identify predatory journals. One is peer reviews and non-existent. They don't review your paper. When you give them their paper, they have accepted the paper. It's published. You see, you don't struggle about it like a correct here. There's no critiquing. So it's just about business. Do you have some money to pay? So also they have what you call editorial board, which is fictitious. They put names of people there, but they are not their editorial team members. So you don't have a concept, but you've been put on a cytology. For example, you're a cytologist. You've been put on a cytology journal as a board member. Then their revenue generation and business growth are prioritized. It's not about article quality. Them is about money, making money. And many people get attempt to this. They get tempted to this predatory, especially when they want to graduate in campus or through their MSCs. But it will land you in trouble. It will complicate your entire academic life when you allow your article to appear in a predatory journal. So their journal metrics and indexing claims are misleading or fabricated. So it's all about fabrication. It's all about falsehood. It's all about getting money from you and nothing else. General types of manuscripts, which we are shifting from. Now we talked about types of journals. Now we're talking about types of manuscripts. And just to mention a few: original research, letters to the editor, short communications, editorials, reviews, case reports. These are types of manuscripts that are general, and we will be speaking about original research in this. So technical briefs, as these are special ones, methodological papers, application of information technology, research letters, blogs. You can do poetry, cartoons, and photographs, which we are not going to do it. We are sticking to original research, which is the most general one in academics, and we'll know about it. Of course, it's good to know that types of manuscripts will have a word count expected. Every journal has its guideline on a number of words that you need to present. So you must be exact or below, and you don't need to go above it. In most cases, research papers will go between 6,000 to 8,000, but there are those that are below, even 4,000 up to there. So you have to, one, understand the journal that you use and know the specific requirements for word count in that area. So the review papers, case studies, which will not handle in this case, but this is an estimate word count for many journals as a requirement. So we need to know that a research paper is actually a detailed piece of academic writing, and it's based on its author's original research. That's why we're calling it research paper. It's an original research that you're doing. And this is being done on a particular topic and analysis together with the interpretation of research findings. So they're actually facts and evidences in this case. Now, we're shifting angles to what is the outline of a manuscript. And this is where we really need to get it clearly. Because if you do not know the outline of a manuscript, you'll write a paper and it will be rejected. You will apply for your paper to be published, and you'll see rejection. And that's a very, very message that really discourages a lot of researcher. You've put in a lot of time, you're like, my paper has been rejected. What is the problem? One, the outline of a manuscript must have a title. We must have author information. The authors must have affiliations down there. You need to know if it is Seth who is an author, what is their affiliation, what is their organization, correspondence to, or the corresponding author, the one who will be in charge of communication between the journal and the other authors who will be communicating what other authors need to know about that research. That is basically what you need to know about that particular research paper. And so you need to have the correspondence to. Who is going to be the corresponding author? Not everybody will be communicating about that paper. You'll have a running head. A running head will be a very short form on which any person can easily access. If they just use the few words in search engine, they can easily get to your paper. Then you have keywords, and keywords are those words that will be appearing mostly in that research. They define that research. They should be a maximum of 3, and some will put it at 4, but not beyond. You cannot give keywords to 10, 12, 13, 15. No. For example, you're doing a research on sickle cell. Sickle cell will be the first keyword. Then, for example, maybe HB or hemoglobinopathies will be another keyword in that area because it's about hemoglobinopathies. For example, anemia will be another keyword in that. So if somebody looks for anemia, then they'll get sickle cell anemia. They'll get, if they look for hemoglobinopathies, they'll get a paper with that such kind of keyword. So these keywords can come before abstract or after abstract, depending with the journal. Then you have abbreviations. If you'll be using some abbreviation like SCD, for example, you're doing like paper in cytology and you have high seal, which is a high grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. So you'll need to, if you have somewhere you'll be writing about HSIL, then this needs to be in the abbreviations communicated before. And these abbreviations should be coming closer to the abstract, either just right after the abstract before you introduce your paper. And so when you start from the abbreviations, when you're finished with the abbreviation, now you go to the abstract. We will see in the next page. Then now you will have an introduction of that research paper, which is a manuscript before it's published, a manuscript. So you'll do an introduction. Then you'll have methodology or methods. Then you'll have results. And I want to insist on something. When you are doing your results in a manuscript, you will not attach the tables. You will not attach the diagrams. You will not attach the pictures if they are microscopic pictures. What you will do, you will do what you call figure legends. You will provide table 1
Good afternoon, Seth. We've lost you. So members, just give Seth a few minutes. He's connecting back. We'll get back to you shortly. Even as Seth organizes for his voice and sound, I would want to encourage you, especially those that are at work currently, to invite your colleagues, invite your friends, them that are in research, and even them that are aspiring to be in research, and especially students that are currently doing their BSc, MSc, or even PhD. This is an important topic that all of us need to come and listen to. I'll also want to remind us that the LMSK webinars attract CPD points. They attract 3 CPD points that are usually given to all the participants that are able to stay through up to almost 60% of the whole time of the webinar. 3 CPD points are usually allocated or are given to members that attend to the webinar. And within 24 hours, it's auto-reported in your account, in your KMLTTB account. And also certificates of participation are usually given and they are sent through your email address, the email address that you use to register for the webinar. You get participation certificates sent over there. And if you are not able to join into the Zoom, the webinar usually streams live on our YouTube channel. that is through the Lab Medicine Society of Kenya, but only participants that join the Zoom are eligible for CPD points. So if you had missed on any of our presentations and any of our webinars, when you follow our YouTube channel, you'll get all the presentations over there. So kindly let's stay on as we wait for Seth. Seth, are you back? Good afternoon, Seth. Just give him a minute. Seth, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, Nelly. I can proceed. Sorry for that.
Yeah, we lost you at some point. Okay, welcome back.
Okay, fine. So let me just project my screen and confirm with me, please, when you are able to see it. Allow me share my screen from your end.
That's okay. You can share it.
Okay, fine. So we were speaking about the outline of actually an outline of the manuscript, and I hope we touched on the title, author information. Is it clear, Nelly?
Yes, it's back.
Good. So we had reached at a point, we talked about the title, about the author information, affiliations, and I hope we had reached at the introduction part. And on the introduction part, you will introduce your manuscript, which we'll just see in a few. Let me go throughout the entire outline, then we'll share about each part. Now, methodology is just about methods, and the methodology, the procedures that you use to perform your research, and should be replicable. Then you have the results, which I said you must include figure legends only on results part. You don't include your tables, diagrams, or micrographs. What you need to do there, you'll only include figure legends. For example, you say table 1 shows the demographics of the participants. So that is the word. That's what we mean by the figure legends. You don't put that table inside your manuscript. Now we'll have a discussion or conclusion, or we'll have both. Some manuscripts, based on your journal that you want to publish, they will guide you. They will tell you we need discussion and conclusion. Other manuscripts, and majorly most of them, do not need discussion. They need you to conclude based on the results that you presented. And so you can either have discussion, stroke conclusion, or both, depending on the journal requirement. Then you have acknowledgement, which we'll speak about it. Then you have statement of the ethics. We'll talk about that. Conflict of interest statement comes after the statement of ethics, conflict of interest statement. Then funding sources, if there are any sources that have funded your research, you need to declare. Author contributions. It's a requirement that each author must be shared on which we must share on which contribution each author put there. Then data availability statement. How can people access your data if they need it? Then references, others will call it bibliography. Now, other components of a manuscript that will not appear within the manuscript, but they'll only be referenced, include supplementary material. For example, you have your Excel sheet for the data that you're using to write your manuscript. You will apprehend it, you will send it separately as a supplementary file, and you label file number 1. Probably you have a certificate, research certificate, or you have the ethics approval letter. You will say file 2, file 3, and now this will just be referred in the manuscript, but will not be attached to the manuscript or inserted in the manuscript. It will only be shared separately. Then you have figures. Figures also will not be put in the manuscript. If they are tables, if they are diagrams, microscopic pictures, microscopic micrographs, you will not put them in the manuscript. What you will do, you will use a legend, that is to reference them. and of course you will share them as a separate files. Tables similarly. These are other components. Nelly, confirm from your end if you can hear me clearly. We proceed.
Yes, sir, we can hear you clearly.
Fine.
Proceed,
So I will want to touch on a few parts that are very important when it comes to a manuscript. One is an abstract. And I know we have had trainings on abstract, and abstract is exactly just the executive summary, the short summary that is a snapshot of that paper, the entire manuscript that you're writing. And what you see mostly when you search within the Google engine and other search engines for journals, you'll find out that the most part that is read by people is the abstract. So it comes out for most journals. So this part is very important as well, because it reflects if people will want to handle your paper further or not read that paper. So most readers do not go beyond abstract if your abstract is not right. And the abstract takes an outline of an introduction. It will have a background, which is the introduction, methodology or materials and methods. Then we'll have the results part, which we call a conclusion. So within the abstract, you don't discuss your results. You just do what you conclude your results. So it's IMRAC acronym. And the tense here is past. And of course, also the present tense can be used. For example, you say, we found out that, or the study found out that A, B, C, D. Then you say, this indicates. Now you are concluding. This indicates. Now it will be a present tense. So past tense, and then strictly you must have words within this range, 200 to 250. Others will allow up to 350. But an abstract that goes beyond there, it is turning out to be a paper. So always try your abstract between 200 to a maximum of 350 words, but mostly will be 200 to 250 words. Now, what about the title? When you want your manuscript to be visible, you need to have a very good title. And this title should have these elements. The first element, it should be setting. Your title should say about the setting. So you see most research ends with Kitale, Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, or Western Kenya. So it's telling us that was the setting. And if it is the hospital setup, you say maybe talk of mapping infection patterns in urine and urine microscopy among adolescents, in Western Kenya, or level 5 Western Kenya. So you're putting a setting. You're telling us, where was this research done? Was it a school-based? Was it in a hospital? Was it in a village? So it should appear, that should be an element in your title. Population. Which population were you doing that research upon? So is it females, both males, adults? Is it children? Maybe is a population of maybe people with a certain condition. So we need to know this population in that title. Intervention. This one, intervention is not a must for every research, because intervention is mostly during what you call the RCTs, random control trials. You need to tell us that you're intervening with a certain drug from the routine drug. So it will be there. So you can say drug X compared to drug to drug that, maybe drug X compared to AL when it comes to treatment of a specific malaria or maybe something of the sort. So you'll be telling us about intervention. So intervention is not a must for every particular research. Condition, and this refers to the clinical condition. What are you doing about? Is it diabetes patients? Is it HIV, people living with HIV? Or is it, who are these? You need to provide among smokers, what is the clinical condition of this? Now, another point, endpoint or outcome, some titles will need to have an outcome that is expected. Others will not, especially if it will make your title look like declarative. You've declared already the results, so you do not. So yeah, when writing a title, it should not be a query, it should not be a question, it should not be declarative. You should not declare the results and you're doing a research on it. Then design of the study. This is very key. Every research that you do must show us which design. For example, you're doing about prevalence. You say prevalence of hepatitis B among, maybe we talk of people serving within hotels or something. Prevalence of hepatitis B among hotel service, blah, blah. So you're talking about, this one becomes prevalence, prevalence test, a cross-sectional test. So you'll be thinking about a cross-section. So the design will be inside that topic, that this is actually a cross-sectional. When you talk of a case study of HIV, in blah, blah. So you're talking about this now is actually a case study. Is nothing else, is a case study. So when you do all these elements, you must end up with what we call a clear title. specific title. It must be original, and then it must be relevant and feasible. So these should be very clear, specific, original. It should be relevant, which means it addresses current issues. It should be practical. You cannot tell us about a topic about removing HIV in somebody's body. You know, it's not practical. But we're talking about something that is feasible. Is it manageable? Is it practical? So those are the elements of title. So look at this title, for example, local anesthetic for dental procedures, an observational study. So this person has told us that this study is not any interventional case. It's an observational study. It clarifies. So there might be purely observational studies. And this, what do you mean by observational studies? You're just observing, you're not intervening. For example, if you give some people about health, you do some what you call health education, and then you do a post-test after a pre-test, then that becomes you've intervened with some health education. It's an interventional. But observational, the researcher does not provide any intervention. They do not intervene and measure the outcome. You just observe, and it's called observational study. So interventional studies, they are mostly for clinical trials, as we said earlier on. We talked about a condition, we talked about the endpoint, and I said it's important for you to note that outcome, it should not be in all topics or rather all research titles, because you must use it sparingly so that it does not declare your title with the results. For example, you can look at this title, cytomorphological characteristics of cervical scrape from controlled and uncontrolled diabetes mellitus patients attending tertiary healthcare, Kenya. So you see, this one is telling us that we're going to look at the diabetes, which is a clinical condition. These are cytomorphological characteristics of that, and so it's not pointing us towards what we call longitudinal. It's more of a prevalence study. So it's a cross-sectional study. We're talking about tertiary healthcare being the location of the study, and that is telling us the setting, and is in Kenya. So this one is going to be a hospital setup, of course, and so forth. And we're talking about cytomorphological characteristics of cervical scrape. We're talking about people who have cervix, and that one is telling us that these must be females, you know. So it's a gender, the gender is female. So it's talking about all the population that we require in this. Now, what is the running head? And the running head, I said, is a short form of the paper's main title. This is what will be seen. Look at this. This is an example. If you are seeing, this is an example, the red indication. This is a paper that just extracted some part of it. And this paper is published in Acta Cytologica, which is a cytology journal. And you can see now there is something down here, cervical scrape from controlled and uncontrolled diabetes mellitus patient. So this is the short form of that heading that we saw, cytomorphological characteristics of cervical scrape from controlled and uncontrolled diabetes mellitus. You know, this is a long, is a bit title. The title is a bit long, so people cannot search for all these words. But if somebody just looks for cervical scrape, then somebody looks for diabetes mellitus patients, you are able to get it. Controlled and uncontrolled diabetes, that is it. You are able to get this. Now becomes a running head or the title. Now, introduction or the background. How do we handle the background of a manuscript? Now, it should be what we call the funnel approach. You start with what is known. There is something that is known about, for example, cervical cancer. Then what is the gap? Is it the gap in knowledge? Is it population gap? Is it theoretical gap? Is it empirical? And those different research gaps that we know about. So find out the gaps. Is it that people in that village do not know the prevalence? Now that becomes the prevalence of cervical cancer in a certain county. Then that becomes their gap. Is it that there is something that you know, or maybe a problem statement that you've come up with that shows there is a gap? And how do you come up with this introduction? You must do what you call literature review. From the literature, you find that somebody says cervical cancer rates in Kenya is 30%, somebody says it's 5%, another one says it's 20%. Then there is a literature gap. So there is a lot of contradiction. So you want to come up. Now, how do we propose now to fill that gap? So when you're writing your introduction, start with what is known. Globally, the rate of this is known, like, okay, globally, the rate of cervical cancer or the prevalence of cervical cancer is this: Africa, East Africa, Kenya. Then what is the gap that you want to handle? Then how do you propose to fill it? Here, you need the study objective to be captured. What is your objective now? Because you know there is a gap. How are you proposing to fill? And of course, you end with a research question or a hypothesis. So what are you looking for to do within that? So there is something I need to mention. You see, when you're writing a research paper, when you're writing a manuscript, there is no literature review. Wherever you are provided with an opportunity to share your literature is within the introduction, but we don't have the component of literature review. So which tense do you use in introduction? You use present tense, discussing general knowledge. When you're discussing general knowledge, you use present tense. But when it is past tense referring to some specific studies, like for example, Seth et al. Found out that, you will use the past tense. Yeah. Here we even investigated the relationship between diabetes and cervical cancer, for example. So we are talking about the present tense because we are discussing general knowledge about it. So now here you will outline your what you did to test your hypothesis, but not the results. So don't give your results in the introduction in your paper. You just tell us how what was your hypothesis, for example, and how did you test it, but you don't tell us the results you found in that case. Methodology, and some people call materials and methods. Other journals refer to materials and methods. And now here it's about the materials that you use, the methods that you use, and this is very important because methodology provides the validation, what you call validity of a research. The validity of a research, we are talking about the truthfulness. Is that the truth about that population that you sampled? And reliability. Can somebody apply the same method and get the same results? Can you reciprocate that particular research? So your methodology must be very clear, because most papers are rejected because of wrong methodologies. Methodologies that they are written in a way that is not communicating reliability or validity of those results. Now, method should answer how, when, where, and the past tense is always used here. In methodology, you don't use present tense because you'll be telling us what you did, the procedures you used. So no present or future tense is allowed in methodology section. For example, now study design, you say this was an analytical hospital-based, cross-sectional study. So you're telling us this was, so it's in past tense. So you talk about, is it a qualitative design? Was it a quantitative? Or you use what you call mixed methods? By mixed methods, I mean you use both qualitative and quantitative in that component as your study design. Yeah. So was it observational or analytical? So you need to let us know if it's observational or analytical. This was analytical, hospital-based, cross-sectional, or longitudinal study. Then the study period, you need to tell us from which to which time were you able to do that study. Study setting, yeah, you are advised to provide even coordinates, the latitude and the longitude of where that research took place. Then the study population or participants, and let us know about the inclusion and the exclusion criteria. Who are those included? Are you going to include the minors? If they're minors, you need an assent, of course. Or the minors are not going to be included, and you're only going to include people who can make, who are legally accepted to do what you call consenting. Then the sample size. Now here you need to justify. You don't just tell us I took a sample size of 100. You must tell why you took a sample size of 100. For example, you can say based on a certain research, maybe based on Seth and et al. Recommended such type of, you want to justify. Or there is a formula that Wang and Cho 205, like a formula for finding what you call sample size. Then the sampling technique must be captured. Was it probability or not probability, which should be justifiable? If it was convenience sampling or was it random sampling, we need to know what sampling technique did you use. Then the test methods. If there are machines that were involved, let us know that you used ICHROMA 2 to do what you call immunoassays, ICHROMA 2. Let that machine be known. What were the QCs done within that, and the reference tests. Data collection methods, were there questionnaires, surveys, any tools that you used to do that? Or computers were used to collect data? Was it desktop review as a collection method? You're reviewing data from for patients from the computer. Then the statistical methods. Which statistical methods did you employ? If you employed descriptive statistics, you employed what you call the inferential statistics, which we'll just see in a short while. Which particular methods? Chi-square? Did you do a chi-square for association? Did you regression? Did you do correlation? You need to, correlation was done for relationships, if you want to study relationships. I want to confirm with you, Nelly. Am I audible? Hello, Nelly.
Hi, Seth. You are audible.
Okay,
You're
fine.
still
Thanks.
together.
Now, methodology answers the question how, when, where, and of course, how was the data collected? When was it collected? Where was it collected? And analyzed, and the population it comprised, of course. So it should be descriptive as possible. You need to describe your methodology as possible, but you don't overwhelm your descriptions with words that will bore the reader from going on. You need to be very strategic. give out the correct way. For example, just give sufficient and appropriate information about what you did, and if somebody wants to replicate it. For example, look at this. This was a prospective hospital-based analytical cross-sectional study. The study was undertaken at the Chronic Disease Management Clinic, that is Kitale County Referral Hospital. The coordinates are there, and it was between April 2024 and June 2024. So these other journals need this to flow like this without giving what you call subheadings. But the other journals will want you to clarify by using the subheading. For example, the study design, you write something there. This was a prospective descriptive study, study area, study population, and so forth. But this is the best way, and mostly you will use the first method that I've shared on my left, where you sequentially provide information about the methodology that you used, and so forth and so forth. Yeah. So we'll not repeat this, but of course, you need to answer the question how, when, and who. And that's just another example for how you write your methodology. Now, results section. When you want to write your results section, it should be a brief description about the population demographics. You must first begin by what you call participant data or participant flow and baseline data. You will need to tell us that the average or the mean age of participants was 55 years. If the data was not what you call normally distributed, which we'll share later in our biostatistics analysis, if the data was not normally distributed, then you will give us what you call the interquartile range, IQR, and of course the SD, standard deviation, about that, the standard deviation of age of your participants and so forth. So the outcome data objective measure should be given here. So what were you measuring? That's what you want to understand from the results. So you need to write about your results, what you found out. Then auxiliary data. You can show auxiliary data, but this is not very important when it comes to Manuscript. You'll do it in your thesis or maybe dissertation if you want to share the auxiliary data. But you need to stick to your objectives that you provided to see if you've written your paper based on the objectives that you shared. So description of all important harms and intended effects, if there were any, of course, should not be provided in the abstract when you're writing the abstract within that particular Manuscript, but that should be provided in a study report or Manuscript. Now here, it's key for me to let you know again, do not attach tables or figures in Manuscript. Just send them as separate files. Send them as separate files. Now, in this case, you are asking yourself what happened? What were the findings of the study? So you give descriptive demographics. Then now you come to the clinical. For example, you will have some sections like demographics or laboratory characteristics of participants. You will say about their age, you'll talk about maybe their weight and so forth. Then you talk of clinical covariates. These are clinical conditions or clinical measures. Then now you can also call them lab characteristics. Now inferences or relationships. Now this is where you'll now come in with the statistics that shows the relationships, which we'll just handle in a short while. Now while writing your results, do not discuss your results. They are just results. Present your results as they are. Do not discuss them. Do not recommend anything. For example, out of 390 study participants, 55% were adolescents. The mean age was 26.5. You're just presenting the results, no discussion there. Female respondents was significantly lower. The p-value was 0.03. This is an example of results, and you can see out of 156 cases, cytomorphological abnormalities were reported in 63.5%. Negative for which you call nil or malignancy were accounted for 84%. Yeah, negative for malignancy or lesions. Now, while 16% were cervical intraepithelial lesions, you're trying to just put up and you begin by descriptives. You don't begin by relationship. You don't do what you call inference statistics immediately. You give what you call demographics. Then you come to descriptives. Now, then you come later and provide what you call relationships, or you come up to what you call inferences. Inferential statistics. Now the p-value, the CI, and so forth, and confidence levels, and you proceed there. You can give odds ratio. You can give other different things right there. So you can see in results now we are not presenting them in any other tense. We are doing them we are presenting them in what we call the past tense alone. There was no significant association between males and female. There was no difference in the mean age between male and females. There was no, you're reporting your results. So you don't provide here any other tense except past tense. Now, avoid vague terms when you're doing your paper if you don't want your paper to be rejected. Vague terms means most of the respondents were females. No, you don't use that. Lack of specific data such as numbers and percentages, that is vague. Then when you have statistical data missing, then that is vague. Your paper will not be visible, it will not be accepted. Discussion. And now this is how it looks, sandwich technology. And you can see the way it is appetizing. Your paper should be very appetizing to allow other global scientists to be able to to see it, for feasibility, for it to be feasible, for it to be visible. Sorry, and so you need to arrange your paper in this manner. You have an introduction there, apart from what you said up there. You have the method section, and now the discussion. Now you're discussing your results. And we said when you do data, you don't interpret the data during the results. Now you're discussing. And during the discussion, this is what happens here. You will provide what you call interpretation of your data. You will highlight key results. There are some things that are fascinating in what you found in your result. You will highlight them. Then you will put them in context with the existing research. You compare and contrast. It can be comparative or it can contradict, discordant or concordant. Let that not worry you. You are doing research. And that is what you found. And now you need to communicate it in that particular manner. Then the study limitations. Every study has its limitation. Put your limitations here. Then summary statement where you can do a general conclusion. If they don't want a conclusion, they just want you to stop a discussion. But in the event they want a conclusion now, you will not do a summary statement there. You will do what we call now conclusion on another part. And now the conclusion will have very clear presenting the chief findings. You just go straight to the chief findings. That is the take-home message. When doing conclusions, you don't start discussing. You give what you call a take-home message or new findings. And now you give what you call future perspectives in the field. What do you intend for future perspective in that field? Look at this conclusion, for example. Multiple factors contribute to repeat aspirates. This is when somebody was concluding on a FNA, fine needle aspirates. So they wanted to find the factors that result into repetition of FNA, because you can repeat an FNA. You did as collect samples, then you do a repeat and you do a repeat. And so they wanted to find out what could be those factors. And so they are concluding like multiple factors. It's not one factor that's coming out. So that's the key message for us to take home, that multiple factors contribute to repeat aspirates, you see. And so what is their future perspective? The cytology laboratory should evolve a policy to reduce the number of repeat aspirates. You see, that's what is a recommendation or a future perspective in that particular area. And then what can be done based on what they found is an on-site evaluation for adequacy before you release your patient, for example, so that you may permit your aspiration and don't delay what you call the giving that diagnosis. Now, authorship, and in all manuscripts, people will be called as authors only if they contributed. There is what you call the ICMJE requirements. You must satisfy the CDC authorship criteria for you to be an author. You don't just become an author and you didn't perform anything, even if you are the manager in that lab, even if you are the sponsor, there are things that must be done. You must give what you call substantial contributions, either in conception and design of that the research, and design I mean the research methodology, or acquisition of data. Were you involved in collecting data? Not money. You didn't send money for data to be collected. That does not guarantee to be an author. Analysis and interpretation of data. Were you able to analyze and interpret data? It means that authors must perform a major composition of that particular research. Drafting the information product or revising. If you revised, yes, it is critical, because you revised and provide your intellectual content when the paper was being written. Somebody sends you and tells you to revise the paper. Then there is final approval of the version to be published. Did you approve? Then that makes you also to be an author. So those are the requirements. If somebody does not qualify to be an author, you put them under the acknowledgement. For example, somebody funded, somebody provided some maybe in kind. Put them. I acknowledge, the hospital for allowing me to perform this particular research. Your Kitale County Hospital, I acknowledge UTRH for, that's it, or management, yeah. So there is the way you put the list of your authors. The first author is actually the lead in the data analysis, plan, and writing of the paper. That's the first author. Probably they drafted the what you call the methodology. They led in data analysis, and they also led in writing of the paper. Second author contributed more than other authors, but less than the first author. That's how you write in a manuscript. You present the authors. Now, the senior author comes last. Anytime you see on a paper the last author in that paper, that is the senior author or the PI. Yeah, the principal investigator, somebody who has significant scientific guidance to that study and to the paper. After second author and before senior author, now you can put all other authors there in the order of the amount of contribution on the paper they gave. Now, the corresponding order is the author is the one who is responsible to responding to the editor's comments. Look at this, for example. Seth Shikuku Kolongolo is the first author, and that means he's the lead author in this paper. Tyrus Omondi contributed more than the third one. We have Evelyn Kutolo, and now we have Bernard Guya. They could have contributed both same, Tyrus Omondi and Evelyn Kutolo, but now between them there is no what you call the PI. The PI now comes at the end. Like for example here, Bernard Guya now becomes the end of that particular. Maybe you can see the superscript. The superscript means that those are the affiliations. You will now list the affiliations down here. For example, one, it will be maybe Maseno University, and that now the affiliation of Seth will be Maseno University, and they'll be sharing with Bernard Guya. We shared the affiliations. That's why you see the superscript 1, 2. It will be we'll be listing there, and that will be another organization or affiliation. Now there is a part in the manuscript we said that is an author contributions. You declare. You must declare which work was done by what, by who in that particular manuscript. And now you can see that is a requirement for all journals. Seth Shikuku or Seth Kolongolo contributed to the study design, data collection, smear preparation. Maybe Bernard Guya and Tyrus Omondi contributed to designing the study, data analysis. Then Evelyn Kutolo participated in data collection. You don't say Evelyn Kutolo participated or donated 100 Kenya shillings, 100,000 Kenya shillings. That one does not qualify them. They must participate in either data collection, drafting of the manuscript, revising of the manuscript. Very key. Now, these are the acknowledgements and just samples how you can acknowledge. For example, look at this. I thank Hafila Busenei, an oncology nurse, who for the expertise in sample collection. They were just there to sample collection, and that's it. So that suits them. It's an acknowledgement you're giving to them. The statement of ethics. Within the statement of ethics, you will write all the ethical approvals you found, the certifications that you got. You write even about the consent, if it was a consent. You write about confidentiality. All the ethics in research that are required are put here. For example, you see the last part is confidentiality was maintained during the entire study period. All personal identifiers were dropped during data collection and analysis. Access control was implemented on both electronic and physical data for safety, and no data were relayed to any third party without express consent from respective participants. Now, conflict of interest. This is another very interesting part. You need to show, was there any conflict of interest? So the authors declare that the study was undertaken in absence of any commercial or financial relationships. That could be construed as potential conflict of interest. Then were there any funding sources? You declare them here. If there was no funding sources, you say there was no funding sources. Then you put there the author contributions. Then we have a data availability statement. Where can people get your data? And for example, in this research, the data presented in the study is included in the article and its supplementary material, online supplementary material file 2. That will be online. It will be found online. You can go through the material. Others may say the data availability. The data is available in hard copies only. Maybe that's it. So, or any further inquiries can be addressed to the corresponding author. Now, referencing in manuscripts. Most journals require what you call the IEEE citation, which is a numbering system. And this means your reference must be numbered in the order of appearance. If you refer to Seth's article as the first, it must appear within your bibliography as the first, using numerals in brackets, e.g., 1 in brackets. So we'll put 1 in brackets where you've done maybe a paraphrasing or a quotation in your main text. Then during your list of references, that one, the first reference appears as the first on your list. So references must be current. They must be within less than 5 years. I mean, not more than 5 years. They should be within or equals to 5 years preferred. So they must be current. They must be relevant and include do or is. Do not put a reference of something that cannot be traced. Then cite throughout the manuscript. Don't just cite in the introduction part. Just even during the methods, you can cite that according to Wang Chong study, sample size, blah blah, and of course that will validate your results. While comparing your results during the discussion, you need to even do what you call the citing as well. Other styles that can be used are APMLA, Harvard, and etc. Now, finally, you are ready to write a manuscript. What do? You write a cover letter and address the chief editor after you've identified the correct journal that you want to use. Then you'll upload your authorship file or be included within the manuscript. Then you'll have your manuscript with the title page containing three things: the title, abstract, and keywords. That is the title page, the first page. And then you will have what we call the manuscript body, which we've said about it: introduction, methodology, results. You can talk of discussion, or you can talk of conclusion, or both. Then you'll have separate files of the tables, for example, in Excel format, or you'll also have figures or illustrations differently. Then you'll also have what you call the supplementary files. Why am I insisting on figures or illustrations? In the lab, you can come up with figures. For example, you're doing flow cytometry. You want to upload those flow cytometry results. You will attach them as figures. You write figure 1, maybe it's talking about the same thing, and you say figure 1A, figure 1B, figure 1C, and that's how you will upload them differently. The supplementary material will include the data, the Excel, the raw data files, the ethical clearance forms, and the institutional review board. Now, this is a pop-up quiz as we finish. In a good scientific paper, writing, is it in passive voice? No, it was found that we don't write in passive voice. In a good scientific paper, writing is in active voice. We found that. The study found that. Not it was found that. You don't write a passive voice, you use an active voice, because you are speaking the results. You are speaking the science that has already been done, and this science has been done, but you will be active, not in a passive voice. Then don't mix active and passive voice when doing the research. And thank you. That is a manuscript development, and it is TAC MBRAC. So it is about the you come up with the title, you come up with the author affiliations, you come up with the abstract, you come up with the keywords, and now you come to the main body: introduction, methods. You do results, you do either conclusion or discussion or both. Back to you, Nelly, if there is any question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seth, for that informative presentation on how to manage our data. Let's give him applause as he sips water as we go check for the questions so that he can tackle them. Thank you so much. Thank you. There's an overwhelming response here from the chats. You are quite clear and you're quite fluent and quite knowledgeable about the topic that you've shared with us. And thank you so much for taking your time even to prepare. I want to start by saying that there are so many complaints on certificates and people attending and not being given certificates. I've appended a link. The link has the link is to help us get all those complaints and even process them. So kindly just click on the link and fill the complaint that you have. So back to you, Seth. There's some few questions here, and just a recommendation from Jeremiah Ndeto. Jeremiah says, this is very informative. We as lab staff need to embrace the data we have and write papers. Is it possible we have these slides? The presenter is well informed. We need more. Jeremiah from Cambridge. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jeremiah. For the slide issues, kindly, if you log into our YouTube, you will find all the presentations there. Even this presentation immediately after this, it will be uploaded there. You will find it there. So to our first question, Seth, Maureen Mutuku asked, is there a maximum in acknowledgements?
Yeah, thank you, Nelly. That's a good question. And Maureen, I would like to say that in acknowledgement, you may wish to acknowledge as many as you can, but now look at the word count, the word limit. So also people who are acknowledged, they should have done something related to the paper. And so if it is a huge research, what you do, you can write many papers out of the research that you did. And so you can write one component and appreciate some, and another component appreciate others. Otherwise, you'll end up having a very huge word count that may not be accepted by a journal, because journals have a word count. So what I would say there, acknowledge the people who are due for acknowledgement. Thank you. I hope that's okay, Maureen.
Thank you, Seth. The next question is from Peter Owako. In what circumstance can your reference material be older than 5 years? And he asked, is there justification for that?
Thank you. That's a good question, and that's a very very good question, Peter. Yes, there are circumstances that you can have a reference material that is older. For example, when you're referring to sample size, and is a mathematical development that was developed in 1900 and is still functioning, you refer to that mathematical. For example, what you know about the p coming up with the sample size, you use it. That is justifiable. But when you are doing what you call literature comparison, for example, you are doing a comparison between your data, and you're doing comparing your data to the 1990, when they were getting to identify first HIV, when it was called is it LAV? Then you're trying to compare that and comparing with your current work. Then it's not bringing sense, because that's too much time. So much has evolved in between. If you are using a book that was written and is still in use, and you want to refer to it, that is acceptable. Yeah, back to you, Nelly. But don't do a research article that is 50 years back, and you use it as a comparison, as a literature gap, to get some literature gap, and to identify your research gap. It doesn't bring sense. Back to you, and thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Seth. I've scrolled through the comments, and there are no more questions, but people are just excited about your presentation. And most of them, David Kaino says it's an excellent presentation. Rachel Wangoi says it's a nice presentation. William Mwangi says it's a great presentation, and he wouldn't mind a second webinar on this same topic. So Seth, if you're gracious enough, maybe we will have you back here for a second take on the same. Excellent, he's giving you 100%. Great presentation, Seth. This is from Ezra Ngelechei, and Ezra says, great presentation. My mentor, Kericho, I guess, in 2018. There's Mercy Onyango that says, nice presentation. And Peter Owaka here asked, kindly provide your contact for future consultation, Seth. And then is there a way we can get the slides for future reference? The slides and even previous presentation, kindly check on our YouTube channel, YouTube LMSK YouTube. You will get all the slides and the presentations there for your tech and for your revision and use. Good work. We are getting learned. We are learning. That is Martin Mwirigi. Moses Gikungu, thank you for that very insightful topic. I have learned a lot. And Joyce, Sheila Jepto says, good presentation. Kaberia, very nice and informative presentation. It is informative. So Seth, it's been a good afternoon, and thank you so much. Lots of appreciation for the work well done and well presented. We are grateful for taking your time and doing this and reminding us that the data we produce in the lab is quite something that we can use to learn and to form research and to write papers on for academic and even for progress in our health sector. So maybe I'll just give you this opportunity for you to give us a parting shot, your last words, even as we finish up. Seth, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nelly. First of all, I wish to thank LMSK for the opportunity, and I wish to thank the lab fraternity for coming on board to listen to this. My parting shot, research is the way to go. laboratory is sitting on gold. We need to mine our own gold. And I can assure you that many people are interested in the lab because there is a lot of data coming from the lab. And people sitting on the gold don't know how to transform the gold into what you call even just the monetary value. So research is the way to go. There's a lot of money being pumped in research, and I can assure you, many people are running with the data from the laboratory and making a livelihood. Why can't we choose to go the research way and publish papers? Back to you, Nelly, and I wish us all the best until the future engagements. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for that, and thank you, members. And again, I'll go back to members that have issues with their certificates and points. Kindly just check your emails and check the spam box or the junk box in case they went there and you've not checked. And also check your KMSTB portal if the points have been uploaded, kindly. But in case none of those is, you're not getting response from none of those, kindly fill the form. We will act on it. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here to learn. And thank you so much, LMSK, for organizing this and enabling, giving us the chance and the room to be here and learn on research and how to handle our data, the lot of data that we generate in our laboratories. And thank you so much, Seth, for taking your time preparing and being here to present and even handling the questions and handling each one of us graciously. I want to take this opportunity just to say thank you to all of us, even as we end this presentation. Have a good evening.